Welcome once again to Stay Alive with Church Alive. And this is your host and president of Church Alive Development Corporation, yes, and the proud pastor of Church Alive Community Church. We're here to bring you a holistic approach to the needs of God's people. We're here to bring you information that will change your lifestyle and improve it. We're here also to deal with subject matter that makes a difference. We're going to deal in with diabetes, what you don't know about diabetes. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot you don't know, but you're going to learn a lot right now. And so we have our guests with us today. And before I introduce them, I would like to share with you my family testimonial. I don't call it a testimony because it's a sad story, because my father passed on because of diabetes and because we didn't know how to treat it. And he tried everything, including kerosene. That's going back, way back. But eventually it was a matter of how much amputation could he handle. And it kept on spreading through his body until eventually it took him home. Now, my sister, older sister, the same thing happened. But it was a little more tragic because it wasn't her fault that it escalated the way it did. She went to the doctor and she was getting treatment. She was getting care. And he made a mistake. And cutting and dealing with her toenail to clean it, he pierced the skin. And he should have realized right away that this is a dangerous situation that he did. But he didn't. He just told her, here's some salve, put it on it, and it'll clear it up. And it did not clear up. It continued to move steadily through her body until also almost the same thing happened, from a toe to a leg, right on through, and eventually she passed away. That is happening as we speak thousands of times. And that's why we have this program to deal with what you don't know about diabetes and how, by knowing it, you can save your life, and the life of a family member. And so we're going to introduce our guests right now, and our Dr. Nuani. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself. She's a PhD. And we also have our Dr. Scott. And Dr. Scott is a primary care physician. But we're going to first ask Dr. Nuani. Did I get it right?
Yes.
All right, good. I'm doing good so far. Tell us about your background in the medical field.
I've been doing research on drug development for the last 30 years.
Right.
And I've been practicing holistic health for the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. I did research at Columbia University in oncogene suppressor genes, as well as some microbiology. I also did research at Rockefeller University. I was one of the team. I came from Jeff Friedman's lab, mm-hmm. and I was one of the scientists on this team that work on the obesity and the diabetes gene. And I also did research at Sloan Kettering Cancer Center on, the root causes of cancer. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to practicing holistic health for the last 8 years. So I'm doing both holistic health as well as research on drug development.
Very good. It's many doctors do not have a health experience in their lives. And if they do, they don't ever talk about it. But tell us a little bit about that health issue that you had that really made a difference in your life, that's targeting you where you should go to help people.
At the age of 30, I was diagnosed with cancerous cells on my cervix. Mm-hmm. And I went the Western route. And 10 years later, I was back to square one. And I decided that I wasn't going to go that route anymore. What I did was I went to the California College of Natural Medicine and studied the neuroendocrine anti-aging regulation, learning about the hormones and learn about the holistic approach to wellness, because we cannot be treated as a part, we need to be treated as a whole. Mm-hmm. And what I did was I integrated my scientific background to heal myself. Mm-hmm. And because I was able to do it for myself, I decided that I will share that with others. And this is what started my journey to holistic health.
Very good. A lot of our problems, it deals with our immune. This is how we how we build it up to deal with a lot of these things. And I've heard about something called immune fortress. Tell us a little bit about that, if you can.
So what Immune Fortress is, it's a supplement, and what it does is pretty much targets the liver. In any disease, if we are not targeting the liver, it's going to be impossible to fix it. You need to address the root cause of a problem in order to fix a problem. If you listen to the word liver, it means to live. If you remove the R from the liver, it means to live.
Very
And
good.
what Immune Fortress does, it targets the liver. Inside the liver, what the liver does, it produced an antioxidant that is called glutathione. And if you really do research on glutathione, it is linked if you have very low levels of glutathione, it's linked to over 50 diseases. And what Immune Fortress does is it targets the liver, it detoxifies the liver so that the liver can produce more glutathione. By producing more glutathione, what glutathione is an antioxidant. So what it does, it goes up inside the brain, it cleans up the brain so that the body can use up the neurotransmitters and produce more neurotransmitters. It helps remove free radicals from out of the body. And in the case of diabetes, what it does is it pretty much cleans up a lot of the free radicals, so it helps the receptors that distribute the insulin to the body, it removes those blockages. So the more glutathione that you have inside the body, then now you have less free radicals that is destroying the receptors, that is distributing the insulin. So now the receptors now are clear, and now the insulin can get to the cells so that they can produce so that they can perform their biochemical function.
Well, that is a tremendous, I think it's a blessing to have something that we can go and use. And it doesn't hinder you from using your vitamins. It doesn't hinder you from, in other words, you don't have to change anything.
Right.
Okay. Now,
Right.
Dr. Scott.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I graduated from Sherman College. I studied extensively in Tokyo, Japan. And I'm currently, my focus is the brain and the twofold nervous system, simply because it governs, harmonizes, organizes, and maintains every function of the body. And, I think it's important at this point to point out the fact that when we discuss some of the things that we're going to be discussing today, we can't help but to be somewhat technical, but I assure the audience, if they just stick with us, that it will all come to a head in the end.
Right. Well, we're suffering in the Bronx, tragically suffering from diabetes, and it's almost run rampant, and it leads New York as far as the diabetic sickness is concerned.
Yes.
And so I'm really appreciable to have both of you here to talk about diabetes and what you don't know about it and how to deal with it. I want to deal with one question. How does our diet affect diabetes?
Well, when I'm dealing with patients, I always tell them that, this is not going to be a passive relationship from the standpoint that we ask them to do certain things in order to help us help them. And we emphasize the 3 T's, Dr. Nuani and I, and that is the thoughts, the traumas, and the toxins. Now, we focus primarily with respects to the toxins with Immune Fortress products.
Right.
As I said before, I studied in Japan, and from the Eastern standpoint, the philosophy is that all death in the form is the result of blockages. And, there are pathological blockages that occur in the body. And that's my province from the standpoint that, from a neurological standpoint, I seek to assist the body in the removal of those blockages. And that's, one of the main reasons as to why we stand behind this product, because it's very effective in doing that. And I might add that it has no adverse side effects.
Right.
Now, yes, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
So I want to add to what Dr. Ponquinette is saying. When it comes to diabetes, if there's blockages in the liver, if there's blockages in the adrenal gland, if there's blockages in the receptors, the insulin cannot be distributed properly. And what's going to happen also, the receptors are going to die. The beta cells that produce insulin also is going to die. So therefore, it's important that remove the blockages, which are the toxins. And this is what Immune Fortress does. It removes the toxins, which are the blockages, so that the body can perform its biochemical function.
Certainly.
Yeah, no, I noticed that I got 2 or 3 of my members that are diabetics. And I say, and pastors, you really need to look into this, because as our members in the church get older, diabetes is an issue.
Right.
Okay, and they go from one medication to another. And sometimes I feel sorry for them, because every time they go to the doctor, it's changing the dosage and changing the dosage. And I said, you know, how much can your body take?
Right.
You know, and I said, I know they're making money off them, you know, and so dealing with diabetes is extremely important, especially in the black church as well, you know.
Right.
So I'm hoping that the pastors, if you're watching, the ministers you're watching, the program directors, deacons in the church, and you know, and you can look at your family members and you can see and realize what they're going through. So let's talk about lifestyle changing.
If I may. Well, the Holy Scriptures, states that we should perish for lack of understanding.
No question about it.
And
but it also says seek knowledge and get
Absolutely.
understanding.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's what we're all about here.
Absolutely. And the diameter of your knowledge determines the circumference of your activities. And education is supposed to be something that empowers you to make you a good steward, of power. But, when it comes down to the medications, surely you would ask ourselves that the Most High did not intend for the whole of the human race to be at the mercy of pharmaceutical drugs.
Right.
We always joke and say that there is not a pill for every ill, but there is certainly an ill for every pill.
Right.
And we know there's a time and place for everything. We just emphasize the importance of allowing you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And your body has an intrinsic ability to heal itself.
Right.
And it can do that in the event that you are able to detoxify it and nourish those cells. And I think Dr. Nuani would agree with me.
Right. And we have to go from a standpoint of cell nourishment opposed to nutrition. Because in cell nourishment, we are also considering the health disruptors, whereas in nutrition, we are only focusing on the nutrients of the foods.
Right.
But it's the health disruptors that are really damaging the cells. So we
Explain that.
So, for example, in the case of diabetes, health disruptors, for example, monosodium glutamate, MSG, is a health disruptor. So what it does, it makes you fat. It makes you obese.
All right, so when you go to the Chinese restaurant, what should you tell them? No.
MSG.
Absolutely.
You should always ask, even when you go to the restaurants, if they are using MSG
Correct.
in the food.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the Chinese restaurant.
Right, any restaurant,
Yeah.
because it's used as it's to enhance the taste of the food.
That's right.
So you should always ask if MSG is in the food. And if they do use MSG in that restaurant, you tell them you do not want MSG in your food. Another thing with MSG is for people of color, it damages the pigmentation of the skin.
Explain that.
So it could cause vitiligo, MSG.
Right.
And then foods such as kale.
When you say that, what does the skin look like? Tell me so that.
So you have you start getting white spots on the skin.
Oh, the white spots.
And usually you
yeah.
start seeing it on the legs.
Yeah.
It starts showing up on the legs. And you find a lot of MSG in the season, like the Maggi soup.
Yeah.
A lot of those seasoning you find MSGs, not only in the restaurant, but in the seasoning as well.
Right. So there's where you really need the immune fortress.
Right.
Yeah. because a lot of people are minus in that area. They got to build it up, and also they've got to be able to put a wall there.
Right.
Right.
And then, the liver is a huge detoxifying
Right.
organ.
Absolutely.
So you want to, exactly,
Right.
so you want to detoxify that liver.
Right.
You want to get that MSG from out of the system.
Yeah, one brother called me one time, a good friend of mine. He said, Reverend Birkett, we came up in the broadcasting, and he says, you ought to go to the doctor and check for shingles. I said, how you mean shingles? What is shingles? He said, there's a spots, I said, I don't have to check for them because I don't have them. Now, some people want to put things on you,
Right,
It's
right.
like the young man in my church, he went to the doctor and he said he was feeling good, feeling better, and he thought that the doctor was going to take him off the medication. He said, oh, you're doing good, but maybe you ought to try this medication. He said, well, I'm doing better. Obviously, he was not supposed to do better.
Yes.
He was supposed to be more dependent.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right, and it's sad, but this
Right.
is the situation,
Another great thing about the Immune Fortress also, it will cut the amount of medication that you're on and the amount of insulin. Because the thing is, when you start taking insulin,
Right.
you're telling the body you don't need to produce insulin.
That's right, right.
So the best insulin is the insulin that the body is making. So by taking the Immune Fortress, it's going to help the body stimulate the production of insulin, and for the insulin to be, because the blockages are going to be removed from the receptors, now you're going to have the insulin distribute to the various cells of the organs.
So you're talking about detoxification now.
Yes, absolutely.
Scott, do you want to share interest some words on detoxification? How does it help?
Well, it helps by removing that stressor on the body, and like I said, all death in form from the Eastern philosophy, all death in form is the result of blockages, and wherever those blockages prevail, the body begins to break down.
Right.
So it's essential that we remove those blockages first and foremost. Then we focus on the cell nourishment.
Right.
Yeah. So it begins with I have patients come in all the time, and I tell them I can help them with the removal, or assist the body in the removal of those neurological interferences, but it's incumbent upon them to take the initiative when they leave the office to make those lifestyle changes. They need to look into their life in order to identify the thoughts, the traumas, and the toxins that are bringing them into my office to begin with.
Right.
So again, that's where I get back to. It's about taking control of your life and empowering people, and and that's that's the philosophy with us here and at Immune Fortress.
Exactly.
So that's what it's about essentially.
When we're talking about that's you recommended for diabetic patients, what do you recommend besides a lifestyle? Also, what can, and we know I've taken Immune Fortress, okay, and it's made a difference. I'm now 84 years old, and I thank God that a lot of things that you're saying I can relate to them. And knowing what the past was for my family, I take note of that as far as my lifestyle changing going forward. And so this is very, very important. But I want to just we have a question there. Highly recommended for diabetics patients. What products? I know we have the Immune Fortress.
Right. So greens. In terms of eating,
Yes.
we should eat a lot of foods that are green, simply because green foods, it produce chromic chloride. And chromic chloride is necessary for the regulation of the insulin in the body.
Right.
So it's imperative that we eat foods that are, green, such as broccoli. Broccoli is excellent
Right.
for diabetes. The broccoli rabe is excellent for diabetes. And a nice thing about the broccoli rabe is that there's a heavy metal that is called PM 2.5. And what the broccoli rabe does, it removes that from out of the system.
Right. Right.
And then you also have the mustard greens, the turnip greens, the collard greens. Those are excellent for diabetes.
Well, what about beets? Beets.
What beets does, it really helps the liver.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about earlier, the liver means to live. We gotta focus on the liver.
Right. You know, some people just eat the beets, but the beets has a stalk.
Right, you could eat the greens from the beet greens.
Right.
You could make salads from it.
Exactly.
And I tell people also a green that we have to be very careful of
Right,
is spinach. A lot of people are eating spinach, but
Yeah,
spinach
yeah.
contains oxalic acid, which is a health disruptor. And what it does is it creates blockages, stones in the kidneys. It also creates little blockages too in the liver. It also creates crystals also inside the blood, and everything flows through the
Well,
blood.
that's out for me because I eat a lot of spinach. And I have to tell my wife, there's got a problem with this, you know.
Yes.
Maybe she mixes it with my eggs in the morning for breakfast.
So you got to stay
So
away.
we can find another green. We
Perhaps
can put
arugula.
kale in it, you
Right,
know,
you-
or something like that.
Right.
Moderation.
Well, kale
or
also.
even the beet stalks.
Right.
She cuts that up, and she puts that in there.
Right. I do not recommend kale as well because it also have a heavy metal thallium.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Yeah. So we got to stay away from foods that are high in oxalic acid as well as foods that's high in heavy metals.
Okay.
Arugula is a good
Well,
Yeah, arugula.
alternative.
Well,
And
folk, you're going to watch these programs. This is phase 1 or session 1. We haven't decided which way we'll go yet, but there will be a session 2. So you can look forward to get more information, more clarification. And I'll tell you, if you have something you want to ask, you can write in, okay, or you can go to the website or the email that's coming up, and you can send your question in for the next program. And we'll try to answer that as we go on and on. So write it down, and something you're not sure about, and send us, send us a note on our website, or send us a call. The telephone number is going to be there available as well, and we'll be able to take phase number 2 and answer your question, phase number 3 and enlighten you, and phase number 4 maybe get you delivered. So just see if you could just put this all together and stay right with us. I think you're going to be benefited a lot. Now, there's another question. What products do you highly recommend for diabetes patients? I guess we just mentioned some of those, but there may be others.
Well,
We talk about the greens, but what?
yeah, but we also have to we also have to focus on health disruptors. So soy products is a health disruptor. And there's a lot of products that has soy in it that don't say the word soy. We need to look for the word that says hydrogenation.
Right.
So hydrogenated products are pretty much soy products.
Yeah, I used to take soy milk because I have a problem with regular milk.
Right,
Okay?
so if people of color usually have problems with milk, what I recommend they do,
Right.
they could
But
do.
I stopped taking soy milk
Right.
now 2 or 3 years after
The
I was
estrogen.
told
Right,
what
right.
it did and what it
Certainly.
does. So
Right,
I
'cause-
stopped, and I just take straight milk, maybe what they call almond milk.
No, you should not. You should stay away from nuts.
Stay away from nuts.
Right, because we have to keep the body at enzyme surplus.
Right.
So the issue that a lot of us have is that we're eating foods that have a lot of health disruptors, and we're putting the body at enzyme deficit. When your body is at enzyme deficit, you're risking yourself for diabetes, you're risking yourself for cancer, you're risking yourself for so many other diseases because enzymes is necessary for to liquefy toxins from out of the body.
Well,
It's also needed for digestion. It's needed for a lot of biochemical functions in the body.
Well, I see why we have to have session number 2 because you just ran out of time. I just saw the note because everything was going along. So, I mean, this has been just wonderful. The information, I can feel the audience, responding to it. And I know that phase number 2 is going to be more enlightening because we're going to go back into how does this product help to improve diabetic conditions. Now we're talking about who have the condition. People out there who are diabetic, there's help for you, okay?
Certainly.
You want to mention just about 1 minute as to what we should look for in phase number 2.
In phase number 2, we are going to be discussing the emotional as well as the.
Well, when we talk about the emotional aspect, if I may, it's important just to kind of give you a glimmering light. every time, Scripture says, as a man thinketh and believeth in his heart,
Right.
so shall he be.
Right.
So the thoughts that take root in your mind produce fruit after their kind. Anytime you have a thought, a mental action, there's a corresponding action on the molecular level within the brain and the twofold nervous system, a repetition of that.
So
that
you're going
thought.
to take the psychological approach.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, that's where you're heading.
Right.
All right, this should be very much interesting.
Certainly.
Going for phase number 2.
Yes.
And I want to thank both of you
Thank
for
you.
making this a very, very informative program. And I'm looking forward for the next one. I don't know about you folk, but I'm looking for phase number 2. And so remember, take all the information down. You can make the phone calls. You can get all the information. You can even learn a little bit about Immune Fortress.
Absolutely.
It's all there for you. We want to thank all of our viewing audience tonight for staying with Church Alive for now over 25 some odd years. And your prayers have made a difference. And we ask you to continue to support. We have a number of things that are coming up. They'll be on the screen. The Women of Courage, phasing into their program of feeding the hungry and giving clothing. You're going to hear about a luncheon that's coming up. And then also you hear about our banquet coming up with the Men of Valor. We're encouraging men to stand up and be men of God. And so we close this program by telling you we love you with the love of the Lord. God bless everyone.
Here's some background on this amazing substance. Also called first milk, colostrum contains key antibodies that protect newborn mammals against disease. In pasture-fed cows, it contains antibodies that target many pathogens in newborn calves. More than a half century ago, scientists discovered that colostrum benefits adult mammals too. Physicians prescribed colostrum to treat rheumatoid arthritis. In 1962, the first successful oral polio vaccine came from bovine colostrum. Before antibiotics, it was the main source of antibodies used to combat infections. As antibiotics became prevalent, interest in colostrum waned. But then came antibiotic-resistant pathogens, and interest in colostrum revived. Scientists have since discovered that colostrum plays a role in fighting chronic conditions such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stomach and intestinal illness, autoimmune diseases, allergies, gingivitis, colds, flu, and parasitic infections. Colostrum has powerful antioxidant properties. It's an anti-inflammatory and, in its natural state, a source of many vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and amino acids. That's why athletes use colostrum to improve performance, decrease recovery time, and prevent illness during their peak performance seasons. To improve your immunity and overall health, and be well.
In you I live, in you I move, in you I have my being. In you I live, in you I move, in you I have my being. As I live my life day after day, I'll stay.